Dr. Marv, today I posit
Mm-hmm.
that bicep training, arm training in general, but we'll focus on bicep training today, is incredibly misunderstood, rarely optimized or optimal, and that most people, the vast majority of people, overtrain their arms when if they were to undertrain or train less frequently, maybe even less volume, they would get more growth. What say you?
That's a lot.
I know,
That is
right?
A lot to unpack,
posit, right?
man. And we're recording in the morning for the first time ever. So, all right, let's go, brain. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I'm actually really excited. We've gotten multiple requests for bicep and arm training. So this is like multiple listener questions in one. So I think we should do anatomy breakdown first, talk about what the research says. And then we've got a lot to unpack because the spoiler alert is I agree with the vast majority of what you just said. So let's show my screen and let's do a breakdown of the anatomy. All right. So here are your biceps, ladies and gentlemen. Bicep is for two. So there's two heads. We have let's start with the long head. This is the really important one. So this is the long head. This is the one that crosses the shoulder joint and it attaches directly to the labrum. And so that is how people will tear the labrum, where that tendon opens it up like a zipper. Unfortunately, I have that on both sides. Its main job is elbow flexion and supination when his pinky's up. But because the long head crosses the shoulder joint, it actually helps with shoulder flexion. Now, it helps most when your arm's by your side. That shoulder flexion mechanical advantage pretty much drops to none once you go above 60 degrees of flexion.
Okay, but you said by your side. So let me clarify with this question, or let me ask this question so you can clarify. Isn't that more in the frontal plane?
So if you're still flexing forward, if you're raising it up, that's still going to be sagittal because you're flexing and extending. So sagittal, you look from the side, S and S, and that's the flexion extension. So arm by your side is like 0 degrees of shoulder flexion, just kind of when we stand. That has the biggest mechanical advantage there to initiate shoulder flexion, but then that drops off dramatically in your front delt. And to a lesser extent, your upper pec will kick in then.
Okay, let me just be more specific to make sure that I understand. And the viewers.
Yep.
If I'm doing a side lateral, biceps aren't doing much of anything, because even though that head attaches over the shoulder. But if I come up in the front for a front lateral, or does it have to do I actually have to have external rotation to involve the bicep, or does the external rotation, as an example, let's say like a palms down side lateral versus say a palms up?
Yeah, so palms up will create a little bit more mechanical advantage at the shoulder with the bicep, but it's going to be a huge stabilizer on the front of the shoulder, which we're about to go into now, especially with lateral raises.
And as usual, I'm probably ahead of you. I apologize.
Yeah, correct. So that's why when we have we did a whole deep dive into, front of the shoulder pain and how most bodybuilders are going to have a bicep issue more than a rotator cuff. And when you have a pissed off bicep, lateral raises are hard because we have these hooks that we've talked about on the shoulder blade. If you're not doing them right, you're going to be pinching this, and it's to stabilize. So let me just show the action. So folks, if you didn't realize this, your rotator cuff's on the backside. It attaches to the side of your upper arm known as your humerus. Your biceps, the primary stabilizer on the front, which means, yes, shoulder flexion, which would be a press, right? All pressing is shoulder flexion. It's the primary stabilizer. So if you have front of the shoulder pain with pressing but not pulling, it's most likely bicep. Now, this guy is your infraspinatus, little tangent. This is the most active rotator cuff muscle when you're pressing, and this can refer to the front of the shoulder. So when anybody comes in with a bicep issue, I treat both the bicep and the infraspinatus, possibly other muscles, but you always want to look at both.
Good point.
Yep. And because why does it cross to the shoulder? Actually, I will save that for when I quit sharing my screen because it'll be easier to demonstrate. Okay. So don't let me forget, because there is a reason why it crosses the shoulder joint. So because it crosses the shoulder joint, in order to fully shorten this muscle, you need to have shoulder flexion. But the long head, not the short head, the long head has that active insufficiency we talked about, where if you're shortening it from both sides, it won't create a ton of tension. So the long head crosses the shoulder like I talked about. That is so it could stabilize the shoulder and save energy. Because if it didn't, if I did a curl, I would go here, it would just drop into extension. It counteracts it. Same with the long head of the tricep. So they are massive for shoulder stabilization. And people with chronic shoulder issues, I don't know if there's any research on this. This is off the top of my head, but I will purposely get them, even if they're not bodybuilders, say they're a pitcher or a lacrosse player or a rugby player, and they have a history of shoulder instability. I will program a lot of like almost bodybuilding specific arms overhead curls and press downs and tricep extension to train that function at the shoulder. So they're huge for shoulder stability, and that allows you to stabilize the joint, save force, and go from there. So do not neglect the massive role the bicep has